that you beat Floyd in that fight?
Sure.
Obviously, that might have been one of the last fights that I've been to. I was at that fight.
Have you ever wondered what it feels like to stand in the ring and face a force of nature that refuses to blink? Have you ever asked yourself which fighter could truly make a champion doubt every move he's ever made? Oscar De La Hoya faced four legends: Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, Shane Mosley, and Bernard Hopkins, and he stood toe-to-toe with each of them, turning pain into poetry and chaos into calculated brilliance. But one of those battles left him shaken in a way no other did. Today, we dive into the Golden Boy's most brutal encounters, relive the drama, and find out which fighter Oscar still remembers as the one who nearly broke him in the ring.
Okay. Why do you feel you won that fight?
When you're a fighter inside the ring,
Oscar De La Hoya's saga with Shane Mosley began on a summer night that crackled with tension and anticipation. The Staples Center in Los Angeles had never seen energy like this as the two boxers circled each other, each step echoing millions of dollars of hype. Mosley came out like a bullet, slicing through the air with straight lefts and body shots that felt like hammers against De La Hoya's guard. The Golden Boy, known for his elegance and speed, found himself chasing a shadow, trying to catch up to Mosley's relentless pace. Round after round, Mosley's unconventional angles and explosive bursts left Oscar scrambling to regain control, and by the final bell, the judges handed Mosley a unanimous decision win. This unexpected loss forced De La Hoya to wrestle with doubt and retool his strategy.
When you're a fighter inside the ring, when that final bell rings, you know it in your heart.
3 years later, the scene shifted to the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, where a rematch promised redemption. This time, Oscar entered the ring with steel in his gaze and a plan honed by reflection. The early rounds played out like a strategic standoff, with De La Hoya stalking Mosley wisely, probing for weaknesses with front punches that dug into Mosley's ribs and head. Mosley responded with the same agility that had dethroned Oscar before, but something felt different. De La Hoya was now more disciplined, more calculated. By the 9th round, he unleashed a torrent of precise combinations that rattled Mosley and seemed to turn the tide decisively. Yet, when the scores were tallied, the same verdict appeared. A split decision win for Mosley, a result that still echoes as one of boxing's great controversies. The Golden Boy's vindication was snatched away, and he had to grapple with the reality that even perfect performance can be overshadowed by the judge's pen.
In your gut, and physically, if you won or you lost, you just feel it. It's a sensation.
Oscar's battle with Bernard Hopkins was a collision of two masters at the peak of their craft. On that fateful night in September 2004, the MGM Grand Garden Arena brimmed with electric expectancy as Hopkins, the ruthless tactician nicknamed the Executioner, squared off against the Golden Boy. The opening rounds resembled a masterclass in strategy, with each punch thrown like a calculated chess move. De La Hoya danced around, jabbing and circling, but Hopkins methodically closed distance, tapping Oscar's body with shots that whispered of pain to come. By the middle rounds, the pressure built like a steam engine about to explode. Then, in the 9th round, Hopkins landed a liver shot so precise it might as well have been plotted on a blueprint. De La Hoya crumpled, and for the first time in his career, he tasted the canvas with the weight of despair pressing down on him. The knockout victory for Hopkins sent shockwaves through boxing, proving that even the Golden Boy could be felled by surgical brutality.
And I just felt it.
Right.
Whether I was wrong or whether I'm right, I don't care. It doesn't matter.
Oscar's most hyped encounter came years later against Floyd Mayweather, a fighter whose nickname Money perfectly captured his clinical approach to boxing. On May 5th, 2007, the MGM Grand Arena buzzed with superstition and showmanship as the two champions entered the ring under spotlights brighter than any before. De La Hoya charged forward, his left hand blazing like a banner, intent on dismantling Mayweather's defense. His body blows landed with sharp intent, and for a moment, it seemed the strategy might work. Oscar had managed to trap Floyd against the ropes in the 6th round and land punches that reverberated through the crowd. But just as quickly, Mayweather adapted. He slithered away from harm, absorbed blows with imperceptible shifts, and returned fire with counters so crisp they sounded like gunshots in the arena's silence. As the rounds wore on, De La Hoya's attacks lost steam, his jab dulled by Mayweather's ever-shifting guard. When the final bell rang, the scores split in Floyd's favor, and Oscar was forced to concede that he'd just met the man with the most elusive defense in boxing history.
Fought against the very best in Floyd Mayweather, younger, in his prime, just,
The question remained, after 4 epic battles, which fighter truly gave Oscar the hardest night's work? The answer arrived on December 6, 2008, in the MGM Grand Garden Arena, when De La Hoya stepped in to face Manny Pacquiao, the Filipino powerhouse with the footwork of lightning. Pacquiao exploded out of his corner, unleashing left hands from angles that no human was meant to throw punches. De La Hoya tried to dictate the early pace with his jab, but it felt like throwing pebbles at a speeding train. Round after round, Manny's storm of combinations battered Oscar's defense. His legs, once springy with agility, felt like lead. By the 5th round, Oscar's face bore the map of the fight: swollen cheeks, nearly closed eyes, and a breathing pattern that labored with each inhale. He summoned every ounce of willpower to respond, to land a clean shot, to seize a moment of control. But Pacquiao pressed forward relentlessly, his speed so blinding that De La Hoya's counters missed by inches. In the 7th round, the Golden Boy's spirit flickered as he absorbed a barrage that sent him staggering. The 8th round ended with Oscar unable to continue, and the referee called a technical knockout in favor of Pacquiao.
Undefeated, and I was over the hill, tons of injuries, so I was pretty proud.
After all the dust settled, Oscar De La Hoya faced reporters and fans, the ring now a quiet arena of reflection. He acknowledged Mayweather's defense, Hopkins' precision, and Mosley's speed. But when asked who had been his toughest opponent, his answer was unequivocal: Manny Pacquiao. Not because he was the biggest or the strongest, but because he combined ferocity and velocity in a way that left no margin for error. Pacquiao's style forced Oscar into a fight he'd never rehearsed, a rapid chess match where every piece moved faster than anticipated. "He didn't give me a second to think," Oscar confessed, voice steady yet laced with awe. "His punches came from everywhere, and I was reacting before I even realized I was under attack."
With what I accomplished that night, so maybe I was convincing myself that I won, but I did.
Oscar De La Hoya's journey through the ring wasn't just about the fights, it was about the relentless grind behind the scenes. From dawn rituals to midnight sparring, he treated each training day like a high-stakes exam. His coaches tracked every punch with stopwatch precision, turning every jab into a data point on his path to perfection. Rumor has it, they logged thousands of reps, feeding the numbers into spreadsheets that would make any data analyst's eyes water. Yet amid the metrics, Oscar never lost that spark. He balanced cold, hard stats with the fiery passion that fueled his every move.
Oscar, you were a big lightweight, similar to Ryan's build. How would you fight Tank?
Behind every champion stands a cast of characters as colorful as any ringside saga. In De La Hoya's camp, there was Iron Mike, the strength coach who believed lifting weights was a form of therapy. Then came Lucia, the nutritionist, armed with spreadsheets of macronutrients and obscure superfoods she insisted would give Oscar an edge. Even the travel coordinator earned a nickname, Jetstream, for her knack at minimizing jet lag. Together, they formed a machine that turned raw talent into polished brilliance, a fusion of art and algorithm.
I mean, look, a long jab. Take a bat in there.
Oscar's mental game was equally legendary, built on a foundation of old-school grit and modern mind hacks. He began each session with visualization drills, imagining every potential punch and counter as if playing out in slow motion. His psychologist kept him honest, challenging any self-doubt with pointed questions and skeptical prods. It wasn't enough to move like a panther. He had to think like a chess master, always 2 moves ahead. This fusion of tradition and innovation turned his mind into a weapon as sharp as any fist.
I would take a bat in there. Man, your face is red now.
In interviews, De La Hoya loved to drop fun facts that showcased his analytical side. He'd mention, with a grin, that he studied over 50 hours of tape before each fight, dissecting opponents' habits down to their breathing patterns. He'd cite punch output averages and footwork efficiency percentages, bringing a data analyst's eye to the poetic brutality of boxing. Yet for all the numbers, he never lost sight of the human element. The roar of the crowd, the flash of lights, the visceral thrill of movement. It was this blend of cold calculation and raw emotion that made him such a magnetic figure.
Oh shit! I don't know what to say. You got me there. Man.
You got ready right there.
Training camps often turned into mini laboratories where new strategies were tested like beta software. De La Hoya would experiment with stance adjustments, tweaking foot placement by mere inches. His trainers tracked these tweaks on whiteboards, tabulating which angle yielded more power. When the math favored a change, Oscar adapted on the fly, turning theory into practice. This scientific approach set him apart, marrying the storied traditions of boxing with a questioning, skeptical mindset.
No, you know, look, I fought every style. I fought every style in the book. I'm a huge advocate.
Even in recovery, Oscar's routine was a spectacle of precision. Ice baths weren't just a novelty, they were timed to the second, with water temperatures logged in a digital chart. His massage therapist used a specially designed app to record muscle tension zones, creating personalized release protocols. Nutrition shakes were blended according to exact weight ratios, each ingredient chosen for its biochemical impact. Recovery became a data-driven quest, ensuring Oscar was always at his physical peak.
That's it. I'm a huge advocate of the jab. The jab stops everything, no matter what.
Fight nights carried their own rituals, a sacred blend of superstition and strategy. Oscar never left the locker room without his lucky socks. Worn thin and patched like an old quilt, he'd listen to a precise playlist, carefully curated to fire up his left and right hemispheres in equal measure. Minutes before stepping into the ring, he performed a silent routine, 3 deep breaths, a single bow, and a mental replay of his best combinations. Then, with the arena lights glaring, he transformed into the Golden Boy, ready to rewrite the night's story.
That's it. I'm a huge advocate of the jab. The jab stops everything, no matter what.
The atmosphere in the arena was electric, every face a blur as Oscar danced between ropes. His footwork was a study in controlled chaos, always moving, never predictable, like a river carving new paths through rock. Opponents tried to lock him down, but he escaped their traps with a slip, a pivot, or a blistering counter. His gloves told tales in a language of speed and precision, punctuated by the occasional thunderous hook that reminded everyone who held the title. It was a performance both instinctive and meticulously rehearsed.
And what you do after, it's on you. But I would throw double, triple, 4 jabs, 5 jabs, and then...
After each bout, Oscar treated himself to a deep dive debrief, turning each fight into a case study. He reviewed rounds with his team, noting each punch landed and missed, each opening and error. These sessions could last for hours, the walls plastered with fight frames and strategic diagrams. Every detail was parsed with a skeptical eye. Nothing was taken at face value. Through this relentless analysis, the Golden Boy mined lessons from triumphs and failures alike.
You fought against Manny Pacquiao, you fought against Floyd Mayweather. On a scale of 1 to 10, Tim being the hardest puncher, where would you rate both fighters?
Amid the relentless focus on numbers and tactics, Oscar never lost his love for the sport's old-school roots. He revered the legends of the past, their stories, their scars, their sweat-soaked gloves. He kept a dusty shelf of vintage trunks and leather headgear, a shrine to boxing's history. In quiet moments, he'd trace his fingers over each creased line, reminded that he stood on the shoulders of giants. This blend of reverence and scrutiny defined his approach, honoring tradition while questioning every assumption.
On that scale?
I would have to go today. I would have to go with...
His fights also left lasting imprints on pop culture, inspiring documentaries, video games, and even fashion lines. Fans wore Golden Boy shirts and hoisted posters depicting his iconic poses. His influence stretched beyond the ring, touching music videos and art exhibits that celebrated his blend of elegance and power. Even those who'd never watched a boxing match recognized his silhouette, the raised glove a symbol of ambition. In this way, De La Hoya transcended sport, becoming a living legend.
I think both guys might be the same. Yeah. But now you tell me a few years ago, like 4 or 5 years.
As age crept in and his bells tolled for the final rounds, Oscar embraced a new role as mentor and analyst. He started hosting training camps for aspiring fighters, sharing his blend of data-driven insight and old-school heart. He taught them to keep detailed logs, to question every method, and to honor the sport's time-honored traditions. His pupils learned that success wasn't magic, but the product of sweat, study, and strategic thinking. In passing on his wisdom, the Golden Boy ensured his legacy would live on. Every fight in De La Hoya's storied career taught him a lesson: resilience, adaptation, and respect for the opponent across the ropes. But only one bout etched itself into his memory as a near impossible puzzle. Manny Pacquiao's hurricane of offense. It was the hardest night's work for the Golden Boy, the battle that still echoes in his mind when he recalls the sound of each left hook landing. In acknowledging Pacquiao as his toughest foe, De La Hoya reminded us that greatness is measured not only by victories, but by the challenges that push us to the brink and demand everything we have. Which makes you wonder.
Like a circus, it's funny because he'll have like 1,000 people there. He'll have mariachi playing. It's pretty crazy.
Even long after Oscar De La Hoya stepped out of the ring for good, echoes of his toughest battles still shape how fans and fighters view the sport. When he revealed that Manny Pacquiao was the most dangerous opponent he ever faced, it wasn't just a compliment, it was a statement loaded with meaning. Oscar had stood against powerful punchers, brilliant tacticians, and lightning-fast fighters. But Pacquiao was different. He was a storm, an unrelenting machine whose attacks never came from the same angle twice. That kind of opponent doesn't just test your body. He scrambles your instincts, breaks your rhythm, and forces you to fight a battle you can't predict.
So he hits me with that right hand. Dan, I swear I've never been hit harder in my life. That's why he...
Pacquiao wasn't just fast. He was frighteningly precise. He threw punches like a painter throws brush strokes, fast, intentional, and full of impact. His relentless motion made him almost untouchable, and De La Hoya, a man who once dominated multiple divisions, found himself overwhelmed in ways he hadn't imagined. Oscar later admitted that he couldn't even see many of the punches landing. He just felt them. That confession, coming from a veteran who had faced the best of the best, speaks volumes about Pacquiao's level.
It was like the greatest of all time. This guy was the best.
How does that help you assess your skills?
That night changed the narrative of both fighters. For Pacquiao, it was proof that he belonged among the greats. For De La Hoya, it was the humbling realization that sometimes the most fearsome foe isn't the strongest or the tallest. It's the one who simply refuses to stop. If this deep dive into boxing history hit you hard, smash that like button, leave a comment with your favorite De La Hoya moment, and don't forget to subscribe for more explosive stories from the ring.